Well, thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here. I love when Phyllis brings the kids to Washington and we have the intern program. We all are sort of involved with trying to help our country. Some of us are trying to do the short term. Some of us are trying to work in politics, but others are trying to make sure the next generation knows how great this country is and what it was founded upon. And each year Phyllis has brought 100, 200 interns, young college kids to Washington. I've enjoyed speaking with them, and I think it's a great thing that Eagle Forum does. Now, I give a lot of political speeches, but I thought tonight I'd try something a little bit different. I'm not going to sing or dance, but I thought my mom is getting a big award, and I thought it'd be great to tell you a little bit about my mom. My mom was born in Pittsburgh a few years ago. We won't divulge how many. She was born on a very special day, February 29th, which only happens about every 4 years, so really she's only about 18 or 19 right now. My mother was an only child, and I think my grandfather, her father, may have spoiled her a little. When she was 16, she had a big, fabulous debut birthday party, and her date that time for that big birthday party was my dad. And since then, they've now been married for 58 years. Because I'm a physician and a legislator, like my father, we are often compared. But I'm very much a mixture of both my mother and my father. And I owe the success I've achieved in life really to both of them. My mother's side of the family were Welsh and English by nature. That's where they came from. My mother's side were golfers and bowlers, singers and card players. They were great storytellers and joke tellers and always the life of the party. My mom has a great voice and a great memory. My mom grew up in a time when families still entertained each other with recitation of poetry, with singing songs and long car rides. To this day, my mom can still recite large sections of Longfellow's Hiawatha, so don't get her started. In fact, as kids, we would roll our eyes when some phrase would set her off, and from somewhere around the house we would hear, "On the shores of Gitche-Gumee, of the shining big sea water stood Noko." How do you say it, Mom? The old woman pointing her finger westward, but you could hear any parts of the 7,000-word poem if you cared to. Or if anyone ever cut their finger in the house, you might hear my mom reciting, "I jabbed a jackknife in my thumb, the blood just spurted when it come, the cook got faint, and nurse she yelled and showed me how it should be held, and grandma went to get a rag but couldn't find one in the bag, and all the rest were just struck dumb to see my thumb." So don't get her started. Her dad was worse. He knew a poem for every occasion and some poems that couldn't be told in mixed company. My mother in the 1970s was very active in the junior league, and I remember the costumes and all of the performances of people singing and dancing and all of the neighbors and everyone participating in that. My mother went to Ohio University, her mother went there, and they even had an aunt who graduated back in 1908. The women in her side of the family were all educated as much or more than the men. My mother still has several hundred letters that are beautifully written by some women in her family. In one of them, my eloquent great-great-grandmother writes to her son, who is away at a sawmill. The letter is dated 1904, and she wrote, "Our Sabbath was lovely, which I spent at home as usual. But the dear Lord willing, I hope I can soon go to his house again. Anyway, his grace is sufficient for me. There is a song in my soul today, a blessed sunshine that no outward circumstance can take away. The Lord is a sun and shield to all that trust in him. May he always be your guide." I read that and think, my goodness, what a great thing to say to your son, and what a great way to encourage people to say, you know, the Lord is a sun and a shield to all those who trust in him. None of my ancestors were rich. We're still working on that part. But we were all hard workers. Like many families, my mother worked, both raising us as kids and a variety of other jobs. Before I was born, she taught tap dancing in the basement. She worked in an office to help the family as my dad was beginning and was finishing his medical training. Together, my parents also had a variety of other ways to raise money in a pinch. So one Christmas, they were looking for gas money. They were in North Carolina, in Durham, North Carolina, where my dad was in medical school, and they wanted to go back to Pittsburgh. They didn't have enough money for gas, but it just turns out that their collies had had puppies just at the right time, and they found a buyer for a puppy to get enough gas to go home. I think they no longer have to sell puppies. I think they're doing better, so they haven't called me for money or puppies or anything lately. So. For anyone who didn't grow up in a large family, it's hard to convey the hustle and jumble of daily life with 5 kids getting ready for school each day. But I'm guessing there are a few families here that might be able to relate to that. We literally had an assembly line for organizing the paper bag lunches for school each day. For years, my mother also cut everyone's hair. I don't think there was a bowl involved, but somehow we all got our hair cut, including my dad. And maybe in the beginning it was about saving money, but then after a while it was convenience, and I liked it so much I still do it myself. This is much to the chagrin of my wife and my staff and everybody else. I said, what did I do wrong in the debate? And they said, get a haircut, get a professional haircut. For 30 years, my mom was a leader in Girl Scouts. For a decade or so, she was in charge of a day camp where the girls would all come out to our farm. And as a kid, I always volunteered to help out, distributing the water. I'm not sure if it was my generous nature or just the fact that there were 500 girls in one place. Growing up as one of 5 kids, you often get the clothes that were handed down from the guy ahead of you. Our clothes, though, were never sent out for alterations. My mother always did everything at home. Alterations could include just hemming pants or maybe a great deal more. In medical school, I learned how to tie knots with one hand, but it was at home that I watched and admired the sewing that saved us money and kept us clothed as we all sprouted up as weeds. My mother had to be an expert at patching the knees of the pants because we often, as soon as we got them, insisted that they could only be broken in by going out and sliding in the new pants. As we grew older, my mom explored the creative and artistic side of her with needlework and other things that she was able to create with her hands. She's incredibly talented and knits beautiful Christmas stockings that each family has and creates handmade wall hangings with needlepoint and quilting. Everyone's favorite heirlooms, though, that they've gotten from my mom, who the grandkids call Lovey, are their quilts that they get when they go to college. So their senior year in high school, they send T-shirts to my mother of a variety of activities, sports, church camp, musicians they like, you name it. There's even a few Ron Paul or Rand Paul T-shirts in the mix. And she makes a big quilt for them that they take off to college. And my mom, has lovingly created these quilts with a little bit of each of the kids' history. And as they go off to college, the kids find that other kids are fascinated by these quilts, and it's something that they can tell about their family and about their grandmother. These quilts are a testament to the energy and love my mom has. Remember also that it's no easy chore. She has 19 grandkids and 6 great-grandkids or more. I kind of lost count on the great-grandkids. But these are an example of the time and love my mother devotes to each and every one of her grandchildren. My youngest son, Robert, recently wrote an essay for high school, and the topic was the place that matters most. And he wrote about Christmas holidays at my parents' house, playing ping pong with his cousins in the game room, and all the cousins sleeping together in a dorm-like atmosphere. He wrote about Lovey, my mother, as all the grandkids call her, and he said she's always there, and in the morning she's always making pigs in a blanket, our favorite breakfast, enticing us downstairs with a delicious smell, ready with a big smile, a loving hug, and making each of them feel special. Our family has been very lucky. We've largely avoided any great tragedies, But when I was about 10, we did have a little bit of a scare. I was spending the night at a friend's house, and we decided we'd swing the jump rope and run through without getting hit from the jump rope. I was successful in getting through the rope, but I wasn't able to stop before I ran into the sliding glass door. So the sliding glass door shattered on me, and I had lacerations across my legs, and the EMTs came, and it was a big deal, and I had these air tourniquets on my legs to stop the bleeding. Still wasn't that bad, but as we were leaving the house, I was on the stretcher. The woman whose house that I was spending the night, she called and told my parents hysterically, "Something terrible has happened, come quick." But she wouldn't tell them what happened, and so they were expecting the worst. So as they showed up, it began to rain, and I'm on a stretcher, and they decided to put the blanket over my head. So as my parents are gasping, I'm like, Mom, I'm okay, really, I'm okay. With a big family of kids, all involved in sports, it seemed to be one sports season after another. But we could have never have managed any of it without my mother getting us there. Through thick and thin, she was always there for us. With 5 kids in the family, the sheer logistics of doing this must have been formidable. To add to the mix, 5 of us, we weren't always as angelic as we are today. Although we were a handful, my mother managed it all and kept us organized and going in the right direction. We all turned out okay. 3 of us are doctors, 1 is an engineer, and 1 is a director of a foundation. My mother succeeded in guiding us and leading us by example to be good mothers and fathers in our own right. My parents have been very blessed. As a family, we have been blessed. We are thankful for the many blessings, and we hope our kids will continue and abide with the traditions. It is my hope that our great country will not lose our way and toss aside the traditions of family. Some pundits misunderstand the quest for liberty. We're always talking about liberty. Some of us want to be free. We want liberty. We want government to leave us alone. But some people misunderstand this quest for liberty to be a quest for a society in which anything goes. That's not really the truth. Most of us are chasing liberty. We're chasing it, though we understand it differently. We understand that liberty requires virtue. I love the way the author Os Guinness puts it. He says, liberty requires restraint, but the only restraint consistent with liberty is voluntary restraint. This generation, we're having a profound debate about marriage and family. Some call it the culture wars. Too often that debate descends to a plane that is sometimes accusatory and sometimes, frankly, not constructive. It shouldn't be interpreted that way. We should be proud to extol the great economic and social benefits of marriage. We should teach that the number one factor in avoiding poverty is not college, but simply waiting to have kids before you're married, until you're married. My parents have been married for nearly 59 years. It was only 58 when I started. It's almost 59 now. My mother is to be honored tonight as the Homemaker of the Year. Let's hope the message this sends to the next generation is, don't give up on good old-fashioned values. I owe much of who I am to my mother. Her love and example have guided me my entire life. Please join me in giving a round of applause that my mother deserves, Carol Paul.
Thank you very much, Phyllis, and to Eagle Forum, and to everyone here for paying wonderful attention to my son and to Phyllis as they tell the things I've done throughout the years. It's all been filled with love and driven to the fact that a woman can do anything. I don't think a woman has to stay home. I think she should want to if she can. I feel so very lucky to have been able to stay at home. But Ron just wanted me to make sure that I would take care of the children and he would take care of the country. But we're very proud of the way the children have turned out, and we're glad to see them expressing themselves politically, and it's been a wonderful road. And I will be 20 on my birthday in February. But thank you very much for the lovely picture. Thank you for the lovely evening and the honor of coming here and speaking to all of you. And thank you to my son for your very nice speech. I appreciated it very much. Thank you.